Welcome back to the BlackTrack, where I do commentary and review on movies with an all-black cast, or at least a black lead. I know when you saw the name Leonard Part 6, some of you probably said to yourself, but BlackTrack Justin, why would you jump all the way to the 6th film in the series and skip over the other 5? That doesn't make sense. To which I would say, you're right. But I'm here to tell you, it's perfectly fine, because this movie also doesn't make any sense. Do you ever find yourself remembering a bunch of details about a movie that you know you saw, but you can't remember the name of it? And when you ask other people about it, they look at you like you're crazy. Well, that was me for many years with Leonard Part 6. It wasn't until the internet really took off in the early 2000s that I was able to finally look up the details about the film. And you know what? Sometimes the less you know about a movie, the better. 1987's Leonard Part 6 is a spy comedy, believe it or not, starring Bill Cosby, who also wrote and produced the film as the titular Leonard Parker. The details are a little cloudy on what his motivations were for coming up with the concept for this movie, but from what I can gather, it's another situation kind of like the Meteor Man, where he wanted to create a new black hero for kids to look up to and for older black people to relate to. To put things into context, during this time period, Bill Cosby was a big deal. Leonard Part 6 was released right in the middle of his successful TV show, The Cosby Show, and Cosby figured he could transfer some of that magic to the big screen. I won't tell you just yet if that gamble paid off or not, but the fact that this movie is a little hard to find and it's rarely ever talked about probably answers that question for you already. But let's BlackTrack and find out anyway. Leonard Part 6 commits 2 cardinal sins right out of the gate, one being that it blatantly gives away the ending, and if you hate narration as much as I do, then buckle up, because the entire movie is narrated by Leonard's butler, Frayne, played by Tom Courtenay. If you're going to go as far as to spoil the ending of your film, then you better make damn sure that the movie is entertaining enough all the way through to distract away from the fact that we know what's going to happen later. Spoiler alert, it's not. The movie begins proper with Frayne explaining to us that Leonard, who's retired now, was the greatest CIA agent to ever live, and that he would love to tell you about Leonard's other 5 adventures, but in the interest of world security, they were confiscated by the CIA. Confiscated? Movies aren't made overnight. Why did you let those people go through all that time and effort to make those movies if you was just gonna take it from them in the first place? All of that is just trying to explain why this is Leonard Part 6 instead of Leonard Part 1, in case you were still wondering. Leonard is chilling these days though and enjoying his retirement as a restaurant owner, but every time he tries to leave, they just keep trying to pull him back in. I'm getting ahead of myself though. The reason the game needs him again in the first place is because agents are getting killed one by one by, and wait for it, killer animals. And no, I'm not talking about natural predators, I'm talking about innocent little animals like bunnies and stuff that are somehow being brainwashed into being killers. We see this in action right at the beginning when a rainbow trout, known of course for their viciousness, I mean, just listen to the guy, hunts down and kills an agent right in front of his woman. Ooh, baby, you ain't tell me you installed a jacuzzi. If I'm being honest, Leonard Part 6 does establish some decent comedy in the beginning, like when the fish doubles back to look at a Playboy magazine. I mean, it's stupid, but in a fun, goofy kind of way. If you ask me, it's the right kind of way to do product placement. Unlike what Coke did in this movie by placing their soda prominently all over the place, whether it has anything to do with the scene or not. If anything, they could have put the Coke right next to the Playboy, but I bet the Coca-Cola company was all like, oh no, we don't want our product associated with something like theirs. Oh, but I bet you was okay with your product being associated with a movie that nobody was gonna see. So it's established that agents are being killed off, and it's a big concern for the CIA, who totally look like villains by the way in this Dungeon of Doom type setting. And maybe they are, because the way they try to get Leonard's attention and bring him out of retirement to stop agents from getting killed is to send an agent to kill him? The plan hinges on this agent dropping the CIA boss's name so Leonard knows who sent him, which he only does when Leonard asks him a question. So it's a stupid as hell plan that has like a 1% chance of working, but 1% is 1%, and it's all you need sometimes, so the plan works. I both love and hate this scene. I love it because Cosby dropped some decent one-liners.
This is not about trout.
Or would you prefer the flounder?
Don't give me that!
And I think it's kind of funny that every time this guy tries to shoot Leonard, he ends up making the food better. Things get better seasoning, spaghetti gets made, all kinds of culinary craziness happens. But what I hate about it is that it takes forever. No punchline needs to be this long, especially one that ends with more product placement. Almost feels like it was part of the joke. In my mind, it feels like the movie was originally supposed to be a spoof and for whatever reason was changed to a straight up comedy, which is a disservice because the movie actually would have worked as a spoof. I mean, the background details alone have spoof written all over it. The chalkboard in the background showing all the killer animals, the agents constantly tripping over the body that Leonard brings in, it was right there. But believe it or not, Leonard Part 6 pretty much drops all the comedy right here. Seriously, it just stops being funny for some reason, and we're only 10 minutes in. All that effort to bring Leonard in, and it doesn't even work. Leonard could give a damn if other agents are dying. He's got bigger problems. His wife left him 7 years ago because she caught him with another woman. A woman who doesn't even get a name, but that they keep stressing was 19 years old, which is kinda odd to me. It's like they wanted to say she was underage, but didn't want to go that far for beloved Bill Cosby. So they made her a teenager, but a legal one. Weird. And that's not all with the strange age gap relationships, because a subplot that goes absolutely nowhere involves Leonard's daughter Joanne, played by Victoria Roel, who's been in a bunch of stuff you've seen, including The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and the side woman in both Dr. Hugo and East Bayou. In this movie, she's engaged to blaxploitation staple Moses Gunn, playing a Frenchman named Giorgio. This stuff is the worst kind of padding, because Leonard Part 6 never really leans into the joke. After the initial meeting, where we find out that Giorgio is older than Leonard, you no longer care about the fact that Leonard's daughter is aimless and kind of an idiot, or that she's trying to be a stage actress. This scene only exists so that Leonard had a reason to call his estranged wife. After this, they could have dropped it. But I think to even qualify as a movie, you gotta have at minimum an hour runtime, and at an hour 25, they had to fill it with something. What they should have done was fill the movie with more Medusa Johnson. She's the best thing in this movie. She's the villain, and she's played by the late great Gloria Foster of Matrix fame. Here's a new one. Medusa is a vegetarian who despises humans, so she genetically modifies and brainwashes animals to do her bidding, which usually involves killing people in clever ways that makes it look like an accident. Like for instance, there's a CIA agent who's been staking her place out and recording audio, but Medusa knows he's there, so she sends out her killer frogs to, well, it's better if I just show you. Bruh, that's hilarious. Why couldn't the movie be filled with more of this? Instead, we get more melodrama with Leonard and his estranged wife. He has an excuse to call her now because he wants to discuss why their daughter is marrying a sugar daddy. And you know how you could just tell somebody fine without even seeing their entire face? Yeah. I'm a little confused about this perspective though. It makes it feel like the movie is setting us up for some kind of surprise, like maybe she'll be blind or bald-headed or something. She agrees to meet with Leonard the next day, and after all this time, you know the fastest way to get ready to be reunited with your wife? That's right, you guessed it, a musical montage. We get some extremely 80s music, sung by Peabo Bryson, or at least somebody who sounds like him, while Leonard tries to get in whatever shape you can get in 24 hours, gets a spa treatment, showers in the finest of waters, and struggles to pick out a tie, eventually settling on the ugliest one after trying all of them. Isn't that funny? All while getting pestered by the CIA to come back to work. As much as I love musical montages, I feel like this movie didn't earn it. It's not that I don't want Leonard to get his wife back or anything, it's just that I just don't give a f. Like, where the action at? It's nice to see that Leonard's wife isn't blind or a bald-head scallywag though. Her name is Allison, and she's played by Pat Colbert, who's an alumnus of the TV show Dallas, where she played Dora Mae. It's funny to see that she did this movie while the show was still running, and promptly went back to it after this, and didn't do another movie for 27 years. That's how bad Leonard Part 6 was. And can you really blame her when they have her acting like she's under mind control or hypnosis or something when she starts pouring food and drink all over Leonard? At first it seems like an accident, but we come to realize that she's doing it on purpose because she's still upset about the 19-year-old. You waited all this time for this? What a waste of good food and movie time. The butler almost saves it, but it's just not enough.
Cancel the grits.
And I think that's the story of Leonard Part 6. Just when it does something to almost redeem itself, it settles right back into the stupid. This, of all things, is what springs Leonard back into action. Not the agents getting killed, who cares about them? Not the CIA telling him that Medusa plans to take over the world, who gives a damn? Nah, it's the fact that his wife messed up his good suit. But I won't complain. As soon as Leonard goes to see his psychic, who doubles as his gadget lady, we're ready to get down to business. The psychic is real, by the way. She knows everything that's going to happen, so she knows exactly what Leonard needs, which begs the question, why don't we just send the psychic? She gives Leonard some ballot shoes and a ring case. It feels random, but he'll need it. Just trust me on this one. It's all a setup for a stupid joke, where Leonard, in his souped up Porsche and a full arsenal of weaponry, throws everything but another building at Medusa's hideout door and doesn't make a dent, while Medusa just cackles at him. And then after all that, she goes,
"Now, let him in."
Once Leonard gets inside, he then has to do battle with bird people who act like rejects from a Broadway musical. I know Leonard is like, damn, I really want to set it off and serve these motherfuckers, but how? Oh yeah, that's right, the ballet slippers. The magical shoes makes Leonard zesty on his feet and gives him an advantage against the chicken heads. It looks just as absurd as it sounds. In fact, I think Medusa sums it up perfectly.
Clever, but dumb.
I forgot to mention that Medusa plans to control the animals with a mysterious orb, and that's what Leonard is here to steal, only it's protected by killer bees. I don't think your Tour de France helmet and your pajamas are going to protect you from that, Leonard. Good thing you know a psychic who planned for this. Inside the rain box is a bee of the female variety, and once the other bees get a whiff of her, it's time for some.
Don't mind if I look to you?
Oh my god, I hate this movie so much. How can we as an audience ever believe that Leonard is ever in danger if he has a literal psychic who can give him a tool for every situation? Leonard is OP as hell. I mean, how did nobody think of any of this? You know what? Maybe they did. It's rumored that director Paul Whelan and Bill Cosby were at odds during the entire production. Whelan apparently told Bill Cosby that certain aspects of the movie just didn't work, and Cosby would shoot the issues down. Whelan was a first-time director and in no position to argue, so he probably just let a lot of the stuff ride. That was a costly mistake, but considering that he would go on to direct several Mr. Bean episodes, which are far funnier than this movie, I tend to think he knew a little bit about something. Back to Leonard. Medusa is screaming mad about her sphere being gone, but she's not stressing it. She knows just as well as we do what Leonard really cares about. The whole reason he got back in the game in the first place, his wife. She kidnaps Allison and will only return her if Leonard brings the spear back, so Leonard suits right back up to head back to her evil lair, into which surely a trap. On the way, the f***ing psychic not only teleports herself into Leonard's car, but also gives him a bunch of random items like butter and meat. And I'm tired of Leonard acting like he's upset about this. Like, bruh, stop pretending like you don't know all this stuff is gonna come in handy later. Leonard brings the spear back to Medusa, and oh no, it's a trap, who knew? I do like the old James Bond-like throwback of Medusa revealing her big plans while she gives Leonard a proper tour of her lair, but that's only because I like listening to Gloria Foster, who steals the show. Granted, the movie left the door unlocked, but she steals it nonetheless. Speaking of Bond cliches, Leonard is tied up with his wife, and instead of just shooting them like the smartest man in the movie keeps telling them to,
Kill him.
Medusa can't help herself and settles on slow death by lobster. Only these lobsters aren't as smart as the frogs and the fish, and end up cutting Leonard and Allison free. Let me ask y'all, how do you like your lobster? I bet a bunch of y'all would say with butter, and it just so happens that Leonard has some on deck, which scares the seasoning out of these lobsters. But how do they know to be afraid of butter in the first place? Have they been eaten before? Are they red lobsters? At least with the henchmen, the joke sort of makes sense because everybody is a vegetarian and they hate meat. But never in my wildest imagination did I think the meat would burn like acid. Oh, but it gets worse. Medusa's right-hand man grows a pair and says, "Oh, you think just because I'm a vegetarian that I won't throat this glizzy?" Pause. Oh man, please get me out of this movie. Between the wheelchair guy accidentally killing himself and Bill Cosby dropping Alka-Seltzer into the mind control formula, things are going down fast. Seriously though, this pill scene ages like absolute garbage. How has this not become a meme yet? Probably because I'm the only dumbass watching this movie. The pills cause the facility to explode and covers everybody in what looks like 7-Eleven Slurpee, including poor Medusa, who just wanted to save the animals, man. Allison escapes, but Leonard is trapped on the top floor without a way out. There's only one animal left in the building, and Leonard has an idea. Even by 80 standards, this is some of the worst claymation I have ever seen. He looks like a California raisin. Man, get this movie out of here. They destroy the sphere, and Leonard and his wife live happily ever after. Let's get to the grade. Leonard Part 6 went down in history as one of the worst films ever made and was a critical and commercial failure. They spent $24 million making this movie, but it only made $4 million at the box office. That's an astronomical bomb for the time, and nobody involved has a single positive thing to say about the movie. That includes Bill Cosby, who went on a campaign to trash the movie before release, outright telling people not to watch it, which is weird because he wrote, produced, and starred in it. I mean, it was his concept, and no amount of direction was going to change something that was a bad idea from the start. To his credit, Cosby took his lumps on the chin and showed up to accept the several Razzie Awards that the movie was nominated for and won. And I mean, it swept the awards, getting one for Worst Director, Worst Screenplay, Worst Movie, Worst Actor for Cosby, and Worst Actor for Gloria Foster, which I do not agree with. She was the best parts of the movie in my opinion, and would have shined in an otherwise better story. It's a shame how unfunny this movie truly is, and it confuses me because I know Bill Cosby can be funny, but nothing in this movie really lands for some reason. Now I'm not gonna sit here and act like I didn't watch Leonard Part 6 a lot as a child, because I definitely did. But as a child, you hold things to a much lower standard, and I can admit that Leonard Part 6 is mildly visually appealing to kids, but as an adult, I can't in good conscience sit here and pretend like Leonard Part 6 is anything close to resembling a good movie. In fact, it's legitimately bad, despite what little positives my review might suggest. And whether you think it's a so bad it's good type affair is totally up to you. As for me though, and it's been a while, but my grade for Leonard Part 6 is an F. No amount of nostalgia in the world can make this movie better than what it really is. And that's it for this episode of the BlackTrack. Now I know it's somebody watching this video right now who's going, man, you crazy. Leonard Part 6 is one of the best movies ever made. And if you feel that way, let me know all about it in the comments down below. And while you're down there, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and tell your friends about my channel. And until next time, I'll holla at you.